the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletics scene, what happened last week and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner via Zoom, Dan Youngblood. And tonight, Dan, we do have a guest. We've got the new head football coach at Clyde, Danny Dudgeon.
Yeah, Coach Dudgeon comes to Clyde from Cooper, where he spent last season as their offensive coordinator. Before that, he was the co-offensive coordinator with Jonathan Haddock, who was hired this past season to take over the Plainview program. So Coach Dudgeon's a guy with a lot of experience on the offensive side of the football, a lot of knowledge of offensive football, kind of a spread guy. So he'll bring some back some of those spread elements back to that Clyde program. And I'm just excited to see what he does taking over that Clyde program. I know that Coach Dudgeon has been wanting to become, get that opportunity as a head coach, and this I think is a good one. He's going to bring, I think, a strong culture. He was coming from a program with a strong culture. I think he'll bring a lot of those elements to Clyde, and I think he inherits a program that was doing things the right way under Coach Campbell. So I think this is a pretty good landing spot for a first head coaching job. He's taken over a program with a little bit of talent, with a little bit of recent success. And I think he's excited to put his spin on it, and I'm eager to see what he can do there. I think it's going to be a fun program to watch. Going to be a little bit of a high flying offense that focuses on the run. They're going to run the football, and it's going to be interesting to see what they can do at Clyde and see if they can maybe build on what Coach Campbell has done the past several years.
Okay, before we get into this week's show, we need to thank our primary sponsor, Capital Farm Credit, with offices all over Texas, including Stanford and Abilene. Buy your own slice of Texas with Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. And with that, before we bring Coach on, Coach Dudgeon is going to a play. He's going to be the fourth coach in a decade. I would like to see, personally, out of Clyde, I would like to see them give Coach Dudgeon an opportunity and some patience, let him build his foundation, and give the man an opportunity to get his junior high kids up into the varsity. I think this is what you need to do with your varsity coaches. If you're going to hire a guy, give him the chance to build the foundation and to build a program. Let him do it.
Yeah. For sure. And I think it's important in his case to remember that he is a first-time head coach. He's been part of a really successful program, but there's going to be some learning curve. That's true of every first-time head coach, particularly when you're adding on the athletic director duties that you've never had before. So I think patience is going to be
learning all the new personalities of the kids. You're learning all these new kids too. You're going to have to get to know every single one of them. That's another part of the learning curve.
Yeah, so I think patience is going to be really important, but I think patience is going to pay off in this case. You're talking about a guy who fortunately, in part of his experience, is getting to watch a former coordinator in Coach Aaron Rohn, who's the current head coach at Cooper. He was promoted unexpectedly from his defensive coordinator position to that head coaching job, so he had to make that transition, and Coach Dudgeon got to watch that the whole way and kind of see some of the through Coach Rohn, some of those things that you have to learn to become a successful head coach. So I think that's experience that will help. But at the same time, like I said, there's going to be a learning curve. There always is. So I think that patience is even more important in a case where you are hiring a first-time head coach.
Now, this has been the year of the coaching change, Dan. For a non-realignment year, we've had a number of very big coaching changes. Coach Lucas, of course, going to Sweetwater. Coach Hermsmeyer out at Comanche, leaving to go to Troy. That was a big loss for the area because Coach Hermsmeyer is a class act. We had the coaching change at Clyde. Coach Hart out at Merkel switches over to Stanford. A number of big changes for a non-realignment year. It's unusual to see this.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been a lot more movement than we typically see in kind of that in-between non-realignment year. But I think it's created some really exciting opportunities for some different coaches. Coach Hart being one. You mentioned Britt Hart going from Merkel to Stanford. He was only at Merkel the 1 year, and now he's taken over a Stanford program that I think has proven over the years it has a very high ceiling, and he's had a lot of success coming into that one. So I'm excited to see what he can do there. Obviously, Coach Lucas taking the larger job and the big step up to Sweetwater. That's going to be fun to watch. And then Coach Dudgeon, who we have on tonight, getting his first head coaching job here at Clyde. It's going to be a lot of fun to see some of these guys stepping into these new challenges and seeing how they can do. And the thing I like about all these guys is that as is often the case with our head football coaches, you're talking about a lot of really good guys, and it's fun to see those types of guys get these opportunities and get a chance to kind of try to build something. So that's going to be, for me, a lot of fun. I like seeing these building jobs where you do get to lay a foundation and try to build a program. That's one of my favorite parts about high school and college football is the process. So that's gonna be fun.
Before we jump into our conversation with Coach Dudgeon, let's bring up a couple of things. Baseball. There are a couple of ball clubs right now in our area that I think bear mentioning. One of them is second-ranked Jim Ned, who have just been absolutely torching the area with outstanding pitching. They're hitting the ball really well, but a very deep pitching staff. Dan, I think that Jim Ned is one of these ball clubs we could see in Round Rock. This could happen.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. In fact, if I were handicapping it right now, I would make Jim Ned the favorite in this region to get out and to get to Round Rock. And at this stage, and a lot can change between now and the end of the regular season, I think there's a pretty good gap between Jim Ned and everyone else. And part of that is because some of the teams that we've been used to seeing compete for region championships and for spots at state, the Brocks, the Walls, the Breckenridges, have lost some key seniors the past several years and aren't quite as strong as maybe they've been. So I think that there's a window here for Jim Ned. They've got a ton of talent. It's going to be fun to see if they can finish this thing off. And
I'm going to throw another team out that we might see reach the state tournament. I'm going to throw out in softball Stanford. I think the Lady Bulldogs with Citlali Gutierrez in the circle, we should say, have a shot at getting there. We're looking at a major talent throwing for Stanford that, when you have a pitcher of that quality, you can ride them to state. Most of the teams that get there have a pitcher of this caliber, and you really need one to get there. Stanford has one.
Yeah, and you're right. If you have that type of pitcher, you're talking about a high Division I pitcher at Stanford. When you have that kind of pitcher, you can make a run all the way to the state tournament. And so that's a big advantage for Stanford. And then Forstan's another team. They're ranked in the top 15. Stanford's at 8 in the TGCA rankings. Forstan's number 13. So you're talking about another team out of this area that has a chance, I think, to do some damage. But going back to baseball real briefly, we've talked so much about pitching, and especially in high school in high school baseball, pitching depth is the key. You talk about in softball where you can ride one pitcher over and over and over again. You can win with one. Baseball, particularly when you get into the playoffs and you're playing best of 3 series, it's all about depth. And that's where Jim Ned is in a huge advantage.
Yeah. Well, unless you win every coin toss and go one game. But to get to state, you better have some depth.
That's the Brownwood Shelby Miller approach. But we were talking about pitching depth. Wiley's another one of those teams. I'm telling you, watch out for them. They've got 3 deep with really good quality starting pitching. And that makes them, I think, a threat as well. They're ranked number 12 in the 5A rankings. And I think it's that pitching depth. That's the reason. When you've got 3 good starters you can go with in the playoffs, you're at such an advantage because if that series gets to a 3rd game, you're not running out of pitching.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. You're going to go to a game 3 sooner or later. If you're going to get to state, you're going to hit that game 3 somewhere along the line. And if you have run out of pitching, you better hope to, be hitting the heck out of the ball and win 13-12 or something, because you're going to get to that 3rd game. You have pitching depth. It's huge, especially when you start going down to the Class 2A or 3A levels. Teams with pitching depth, like Jim Ned, for example, it runs about 6 deep. That's a huge advantage. Humongous.
Yeah, and if you look at the teams in our region that have done really well over the past several years, the Walls, the Brocks, the Breckenridges, who I was really disappointed they didn't get the opportunity to actually, compete at the playoffs last year because of COVID. Those teams all had that type of pitching. Those teams had good starting pitching, and then a couple of really good bullpen guys behind them. But when you have that, you've got a chance. And to me, that's what's going to be fun watching Jim Ned and Wiley once they get to the playoffs.
And with that, it's just about time to bring on Coach Dudgeon. But before we do that, we need to thank our sponsors. First and foremost, Capital Farm Credit, who brings you these Wednesday night podcasts free of charge throughout the school year. Also, for the love of the game broadcasting, our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breckenridge, and 98.5 FM KWBY out of Ranger. That is for the love of the game broadcasting. Also, Phil Hill of the Abilene Realtors Group, big supporter of local athletics. If you're in the market, give him a call at 325-669-5153 or visit his website at philhillproperties.com. And finally, Jack's Road Boring in Snyder. Dirt sales and services with service and experience you can count on. Larry Green is the man to phone out there. Give him a shout at 325-575-8004. That's Jack's Road Boring in Snyder. And with that, Dan, it is time to bring on Coach Dudgeon. I know you've worked with him for a number of years. You like the guy, and you're excited for his opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. Coach Dudgeon, I think, is one of those guys who's really paid his dues. He's really earned this opportunity with his past experience and putting in the time. You look at he's been a part of some really successful teams, been a part of a successful program at Cooper, worked for multiple head coaches there. When you talk about kind of the run that they've been on with Coach Mavis and then Coach Roan and those sorts of things, but I mean, this is a guy who's been part of deep playoff runs. The Coopers made it to the third round of the playoffs multiple times over the past several years. We won double-digit games multiple times over the past several years. So he's bringing with him, I think, a strong culture, a strong pedigree. So I think it's going to be exciting to see what he can accomplish here at Clyde.
And joining us now, new Clyde head football coach Danny Dudgeon. Coach, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations.
Thank y'all, and thank you for having me.
All right, Coach, right off the bat, you applied for the Clyde job. What about Clyde attracted you to the gig?
I started my career in Breckenridge, coaching against Clyde kids, and I've always thought that they've had really good kids, really, really respectable kids, tough, and it's always been drawn to us. And when the job came open, me and my wife just visited about it, and we just really felt like it was a really good fit for our family and a good opportunity for me. And we just jumped on it and took off from there.
Okay, Coach, obviously first head coaching job off the coordinator job over at Cooper, I guess. What are maybe some of the biggest challenges you envision facing just in terms of the learning curve there?
I mean, obviously the biggest thing is as a coordinator, you're just responsible for the sports you deal with. Now, obviously I'm going to be responsible for the entire athletic program from top to bottom. And that's going to be a challenge of itself, just grasping that and having the time management of all of that stuff. And that part will be tough, but that's also the exciting part, I think, is getting to impact more kids, if you will, than just impacting the kids in football and in powerlifting like I have been the past 6 years.
And you had kind of a unique experience at Cooper in getting to watch Coach Roan make that transition from a coordinator position to the head coach and athletic coordinator in that case. What are maybe some things you learned just from watching him and seeing some of the things that he did, maybe some of the lessons he learned early?
Yeah, I mean, I think, a couple of big things and some of the advice that they've given me and some of the other guys that have made this leap that I know is, obviously work your tail off, but when it's time to go home, it's time to go home. That's one thing that I've heard a bunch. The other part is just always keep the main thing, and that's the kids. There's going to be a lot of things pulling you a whole bunch of different directions. And at the end of the day, our job is to make these kids better, to give them a chance to be successful and also to help develop some character and turn them into young men and women. And that's got to be the main focus at all times.
Coach, can you tell us about your early objectives when you get there on day one and you meet the kids? What are your early objectives going to be?
Obviously it's a little tight window. Clyde gets out of school a week earlier than even Abilene ISD did. So really you're looking at, once you get there, about 6 weeks is at best is what you got. So obviously some of the early objectives is kind of creating a little bit of a new culture in the off season. Not that there's anything wrong with what's going on, but what I know. And then also some install of offense. We've got to get a defense installed. We've got to get an offense installed. There's some hiring that's got to occur. They've got a few positions that are currently open that we've got to get filled immediately. And we've got to try to do all that in an efficient manner so we can get as many bodies in place where they need to be so we can start working with these kids and get them heading in the right direction.
Coach, tell us about the response from friends and family, colleagues, and all that when they got news that you landed the gig.
Man, it's been a blessing to see how many people, whether it be vocal or quietly, have been supporting me behind the scenes throughout my career. And some of them, that you forget about, unfortunately, because you're crossed paths 10, 12 years ago, and they're still back there quietly, celebrating with you when you get this opportunity. Obviously, my family was excited. I come from a family of coaches. My father coached for many, many years. My grandfather did. So did my wife's mother. So obviously they understand a little more of what is to come for me. But the excitement was an unbelievable outpour from friends and family. And it's really encouraging when you make a decision like this. It's a hard decision. But when you have family and friends that are really, really invested and interested in what you're doing and excited for you as well.
Coach, are you getting the indications that they're going to give you enough time to set your foundation and be patient with you?
They are. I have no reason to believe that it would be any other way. They know there's going to be some change at the start, especially offensively because of philosophy differences. Their nucleus is really young. I think they played, from what I understand, several freshmen and sophomores up last year. So they know that there's still some growing pains, if you will, that are to be coming. The non-district schedule is no joke. And everybody's kind of aware of that, but we're going to hit the ground running, and we're going to see if we can't get them a good product as fast as possible. But at the end of the day, talking to them, I really felt like the main thing they want is kids being taken care of, kids being coached hard, and coaches that genuinely care and are invested in their kids, not only athletically, but also in investing in making them great young men and women.
And Coach, you mentioned philosophy, some schematic things, offensive, defensive. You obviously come from the offensive background with running the spread offense there at Cooper. What are maybe some just schematic philosophies you're going to bring with you to Clyde? What are some things we can expect to see on both sides of the ball?
Obviously, offensively, it won't look exactly like Cooper, because if you've watched Cooper enough, every year it's just a touch different. It's going to fit the kids, but it is going to be that same spread, power run game philosophy that we've used. And I think it's going to fit their kids really well from what I've seen. And then defensively, we've got to do some discussion and find what we want to do fit wise. And that's going to happen in the next coming weeks. I've always been around 3-4 guys, and really don't know a whole lot else. When I did coach defense in my early career, that's what I coached. But we're going to find the guy that's going to fit that deal and make it as good as it possibly can. And then special teams, I've had a heavy hand in what we do special teams wise at Cooper. So a lot of the special team stuff will come over with me as well. The punt, which is kind of unique to Cooper, something I stole from Steve Freeman many, many years ago. That's all things that I have implemented at Cooper, and it'll come with me to Clyde, because we believe in it and we know it's effective, and we certainly think it'll work for whatever kid that is on the field, and we can find a way to make them successful with it.
Tell us about the challenge of learning, not only, all the personalities, but all the assessing all the different talents that you got. You got a very short time period to learn everybody's name and their personalities, their talent, all that. How do you put it together?
And it's probably not going to happen overnight. Step one's going to be to learn coaches and get to the kids' vision as fast as I can. I don't know. I know a couple of the coaches out there. I've been blessed to shake several of them's hand in the last week or so. But, I've not only got to learn kids' names, I've got to learn administrators' names. I've got to learn coaches' names. But the only way I know to do that is to just get there and to be involved. It's going to be long days for a little while for me, and that's okay. But we're gonna make sure we have everybody in place and have them where they need to be, and we're going to make sure that the administration knows we're headed in the right direction with them. And then we're also going to make sure those kids understand, hey, we're fixing to get this train rolling, and you guys hop on, and it's going to be a fun ride.
And you mentioned the new role, just as far as being athletic director, being in charge of an entire athletic program. What are maybe some philosophies you bring with you just in terms of overall program success, and maybe some points of emphasis there?
And that's a great question and it's easier said than done on some aspects, but my belief is we're going to work kids hard no matter what. We're going to love on kids no matter what. And we're going to make sure that we're coaching kids up, not down. That's a big belief of mine. There's a coach's expectation and philosophy that I believe in that Coach Freeman actually introduced me to, and Coach Mavis expounded on it. And so has Coach Roan. And day one's going to be making sure the coaches understand what those philosophies and expectations are, on both sides of the ball, both sides of the program. And while it may look a little different for girls than it does for boys, the product should look the same. And the kids should know that they're getting a wonderful process of athletics. It should be a model that they should be successful in, but also feel really good about the outcome that they get at the end of it. And that's kind of going to be goal number one, is setting that expectation for everyone the first day I get out there.
Coach, when the news was announced and it became, I guess, known a little bit, I saw a pretty good outpouring on Twitter in particular from former players at Cooper. A lot of kids who are really excited, guys that you had coached directly, were really excited for the opportunity you're getting. I guess just what did that mean to you to see kids that you had been coaching the past several years that obviously meant a lot to you, that were just really proud and happy for you?
Right, and that was probably the hardest decision of the whole mix. Cooper's a great place with great kids, and 6 years in a location as a coach is a long time. And some of those kids, I've not only been blessed to coach a few of them, but I've been blessed to coach like some of them and their sibling as well. It's just really awesome to know that all the time and the hours put in. Not only did we win a lot of football games and we had a lot of success, but we also, to me, shows that we impacted some lives in that process. And it's just wonderful to understand that those kids realize it. And, when I got to tell the kids at Cooper, I was blessed to where we were able to do it, where I was able to get to them first. Just the amount of handshakes and hugs and thank yous was astounding. And kids don't really understand all the time how long that goes for an adult when they realize that, hey, maybe all these 80-hour weeks mattered for more than just a few wins and losses. And that really made me feel really good about the process that we've done at Cooper.
Cool. And I mean, we've kind of touched on this one a little bit, but what is next for you? What is what, I guess you want to try to hit the ground running, but what is next, I guess, on the agenda for you?
So I will be at Cooper tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, I will be out at Clyde at 7 a.m. To meet with the coaching staff and kind of get the foundation started with them. Obviously, there's some wonderful coaches out there. And there's several of them, like I said, that I've got to briefly meet, but kind of set the foundation. And then as soon as we can start getting in front of those kids with some slight changes that we're going to make philosophy-wise, offensively, and a little bit in off-season, we will. And then obviously support. I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but I'm going to try. Their district track meets on Thursday, and if I can figure out a way to get there, I'm going to be there. Obviously, I've got some other things that I've got to make sure I've handled. But if I can be there and watch those kids compete, they're going to see me there in a Clyde shirt and watching them compete. And that I think that's important for those kids to see that, hey, this guy's not only just here for football and for that part of it, but he's here for us. And that's something I want them to know now, and I want them to feel that presence immediately.
Coach, one thing that you're going to be facing at the 3A level that you really didn't see a whole bunch of at 6A are two-way players all over the field. What does that do to your philosophy or your approach? Does it change it at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's going to change how you prepare. Obviously, and we've been blessed at Cooper the last few years. We really haven't had to even mess with any two-way players, excluding maybe Dylan Davis with a little bit of crossover in 2019 that he did to help us offensively because he was so explosive. But, you have to change how you prepare. Offensively, may have to slow down a little bit at times to help them and try to go there. Obviously the goal would be when we did it at Breck is as many of those linemen as we can make one-way guys. That would sure help us. But we also understand we've got to put the best kids on the field to give us a chance to be successful. Obviously, practice now is going to be a little more split. Where at Cooper, we go for 2 hours. It's 2 hours of offense for these so many kids and 2 hours of defense for those so many kids. And it's just not going to work that way, Clyde. Every kid's going to have a position on both sides of the ball. And every kid's going to have to know the scheme to where he can help. I really don't think our schemes will have to shut down a whole lot offensively, just because really when you get down to brass tacks with our schemes offensively, it's not as in-depth as people think. And so I think that part of what we've done will be to their advantage once we kind of get everything installed and get it rolling.
Coach, you're a big country guy. You grew up here. You went to school at Abilene High. You've gotten to coach your basically, I guess, your entire career in this area. How much did that mean to you to get your first head coaching job in the area where you did grow up and to continue coaching in the big country?
Yeah, I spent 1 year out of the big country. I spent 1 year in Bastrop. And I can tell you there's something about big country kids that draws me. They are so willing to work. They're so willing to just do what they're asked to do. That is just something that's hard to leave. Once you figure out that the kind of kid that's here you realize the kind of work that they're willing to put in, and you just don't want to leave. For me, it means everything. My family's still here. My parents have both retired and live in Abilene. My wife's mother is retired and lives in Brownwood. So our whole family is within, a 100-mile radius of Abilene, Texas. And that's something that's very important to us. And we understand it may not always be that case, but we've been so blessed to be able to just kind of stay in this area as our careers has gone and been around family. And that's an important part of the process to me as well.
Coach, can you talk about the challenge that you're up against? I mean, you've got some tough competition. You've got the Jim Neds of the world to deal with. Wall is there, improving programs at Early and Brack that are out there. So can you talk about just the challenge that you face?
Yeah, I mean, you look at their schedule coming out into this year, there's not a game where you feel really, really good in the aspect of you're thinking, man, this is just going to be a walk in the park for the most part. These guys are well tested. Obviously, Jim Ned won state last year, and Coach Fanning does a great job there. Wall has been very successful doing what they've done. Coach Guy is someone that I've coached against before early in my career. And then, like you said, you've got programs like Breckenridge that are historically successful and historically proud of what they do. And in a weird way, you kind of also can show your kids the product of what we're trying to attain with Jim Dad sitting there and doing what they did this year. So you can also see that, but we're going to have to go to work quickly. We're going to have to develop some toughness about it, and we're going to have to be willing to attack every day head on, because there's just really not a week where you can sit back and just say, man, we've got this thing. But at the same time, I think that's what you want as a coach. I'd much rather be in a dogfight every week as a coach, because I know that then, you're getting everything you can out of those kids, rather than walking through a bunch of games that really you can just kind of sleepwalk through. And that's not what we're after. And so in that way, to me, it's a challenge, but it's also a blessing.
And last one, and it's kind of funny you say that, because I think that this is kind of plays into the next question. But obviously, it's an exciting time for you with your first head coaching job, a blessing there. But you will have some challenges in front of you, and some probably tough times ahead. Who are some mentors maybe that you'll be able to lean on when things do get tough over there at Clyde?
And there's more probably than I could name, and there's probably going to be some that I won't even realize I'll need to call on, and one day I'm going to look up and be calling them. But Steve Freeman was where I started my career in Breckenridge. Obviously, he is well known in the area and very successful. He's someone that if I have a question, I'm going to call him. Todd Mavis is another one. Great person to learn from. Learned a lot about culture through Coach Mavis, and a lot about just how to work in that aspect. And then Coach Roan, obviously, Coach Roan's so good about connecting the community and getting kids to just buy in and love on kids. All three of those guys bring things that are different, that I've learned a lot from. And then you've got people like Bob Servetto, who I've known most of my life, and he called me to congratulate me. I said, man, I'm going to be calling you with questions, I'm sure. And people like that in the area. Coach Morton at Eastland, I've coached against a few times, already reached out to me. And those are guys that, not only do they have success on the field, they seem to be doing it the right way, because programmatically they're having success on all facets at the schools they're at. And so there's tons of those guys that I've been so blessed with, that, at any moment, if I make a phone call, I feel like they'll answer, and they'll give me their opinion. Whether I like it or not, they're going to tell me what's best for the kids. And that's what you need in your corner when you're in a situation like this, learning kind of on the fly on some of these things.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and we will be in touch with you regularly. Good luck.
Congratulations. Thank you, guys. Let me know if y'all need anything else.
And that was new Clyde head football coach Danny Dudgeon. Dan, it's going to be interesting to see what he does with the program. It's going to be a different type of football. I think a little quicker tempo football than what we've been seeing in the last few years. It's going to be a challenge because of the district, but it's going to be interesting, fun to watch.
Yeah, definitely be fun to watch. And I think one thing that was neat talking to him is you can kind of two things that I took from the conversation we just had, obviously, were one, how prepared he is. I think he's really done his due diligence to kind of know what he's up against and to have a plan for what he's going to face. I was impressed with that. And then also just the enthusiasm. I think part of that's when you get a young, eager guy, I think you're going to see some of that. And I think you saw that in the conversation we had. This is a guy that's excited about this challenge, excited about this opportunity. And I'm excited for him for that reason. And you mentioned schematics. And one thing that I can tell you just from watching Cooper's offense the past several years that he's been there is they will run a more of an up-tempo spread, but they're going to focus on being physical. They're going to have big, strong offensive lines, and they're going to run downhill. And I think that's important. We've talked a lot about that over the years, that you have to have a running game, and that's always been part of their a big part of their focus. So it's been exciting to see what all he can implement there. Kind of see what translates. There are going to be some things that are going to be different, obviously, from going from the 5A level to the 3A level, but he's well prepared. He's coached at that level before at Breckenridge, and it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to see what he's able to build out there.
The biggest challenge, or one of the big, other than the schedule, is just dealing with the depth at that level and the two-way players. That changes the game a great deal, and it's a new thing for 5A, 6A coaches to go to 3A and 2A. The 2A players all over the field really changes the game, especially in the second half. So it's an adjustment that he'll have to make.
Yeah, that's part of the routine too. I mean, you've been used to leading practices a certain way, and now you have to kind of split those between the phases. But I think he'll adjust. And fortunately, he's going to have some members on that staff who have been through some of those things, I'm sure. So that'll help as well. But it's going to be exciting. It's exciting to see him get this opportunity. I know this is one that he was excited about. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch what happens in Clyde next year and beyond.
And that's just about going to wrap it up for the Capital Farm Credit Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we have 3 separate subscription packages here at BigCountryPreps.com. We have a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And we've got an annual subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage. We don't change our prices here. We don't give you this minuscule sign-up price, the carrot and the stick thing. We don't, and then jack the price up later when you're not looking. We don't do that. We start with a low, reasonable price and stays the same throughout your subscription.
And we'd also like to remind you that if you see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, it is available for just $7. You can click on that small shopping cart icon to the bottom right, follow the prompt, and purchase as many of those as you would like. But scrolling through the site, you'll see we take a whole lot of photos at these games we're at. It's something we really enjoy doing, and it's something we're proud of here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.